Okay, we're working, maybe, sort of, yeah, okay. Alright. I keep finding random bits of fiberfill fluff, because I've been kinda, I added antenna to them, but I've been doing a bunch of these, so there's now an assortment of pride bees and stuff. But yes, there's that. Alright. Hi. How you doing? How is everybody? And now I have to redo the intro because otherwise my brain doesn't kick into the fact that I'm doing a thing. Okay, 1 second. Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the stream or the video if you're watching this on YouTube, because I will actually get stuff posted. But yeah, today we are working on, as you can see right here, chapters 14 through 16. I only know that that's the chapter number because I counted them. So, Bright Moonlight to the Foundation. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, the privates. Many of those. Oh, that's rude. It's not good when the allergies ignore the antihistamines. That's what they're supposed to. They're supposed to not ignore the antihistamines. There we go. Alright. So, it's been a couple weeks since we did. Since we did book club. For a number of reasons. But, yeah. So, we're back. We're doing the thing. Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Like, there's sometimes that, as a character, someone is like, oh yeah, interesting, yeah, alright, I can see that. But, like, as a person, like, I don't get it, and you're being obnoxious. For this, like, there was a lot of that, too. Not the yawning, but the previous statement. But there was a lot of instances where, like, as a character, I would be like, more annoyed, but like as a person, I can understand someone being that like obsessive about a project, sometimes to the detriment of interacting with people that they care about. Not to this extent exactly, but you know, I can see it. At least in part because I just binge watched almost 5 entire seasons of a show in 3 days. So there's that. Yeah. Power and therefore internet just went wonk. Restarting. Okay. Alrighty. That's not good. That's not good. No. Alright. There we go. So, how's everybody doing? Back connections, buddy. Okay. I don't think so. Can you hear me? Because the thing's showing an audio spike when I talk, but as we've discovered, that doesn't seem to mean a whole lot with how the AV equipment in OBS seems to want to work on my computer. Testing. Anybody? Is Just getting through. Maybe. Anything. What saith the chat? Testing. Okay. This is the only other option there. Because it says that it's going through, but I don't know. Hello? Ah, fabulous. Okay. That's not gonna work. Okay, one sec. I need a flat thing. No. Okay. Anyway, I'll just put this back here. Okay. So y'all can hear me? We're good? It's yeah? We're good? Going through now? Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Alright. Yay. Alright. So, as I was saying, which it probably didn't pick up, because it was, the same register and everything else and settings as the rest of what I was apparently not saying. I can see, like, there's a lot of characters that, as a character, they're really irritating and, or, as a character, they're interesting, but as a person, they would be really irritating. And because we've kind of got an interesting duality with that happening, and it's just because it is a kind of lyrically authored biography, dual biography. Like, yeah, no worries. Um, it wasn't a question so much on that one. But like just an observation that like there's a lot of characters in stories that as a character they're interesting, but as like an actual person they would be moving thing around. Okay. Alright. Gotta bust out the fidget cube, otherwise I'm gonna end up pulling the computer off screen apparently today. So there's that. Apologies for the clicky sounds. That's just how it's gonna be apparently today. But as irritating as Lota the character is in some capacities, and as much as you want to try and sit him down and be like, no, don't do this or do something else or whatever, like I understand the obsessing over something enough that it kind of takes over everything, you know? It tends to be more a short term thing for me than a several year long endeavor to the what's the word? Ruination, I suppose, of relationships and personal connection and stuff. But I do understand the feeling of like, this is a thing, so I need to follow it to the furthest extent that it can possibly go. It's just most of the time for that, in my experience, the things that I end up obsessing about like that have a natural limit. So, like, it's a show that only has a certain number of seasons, or there's a pathway that you physically cannot go further and have to turn back or be removed from the site, kind of a thing. So there's like a vague sense of outside intervention, so it kind of derails that. But yeah, yes, we'd not be able to stand most of these people IRL, but only in small doses, right? Like, and because it's written in the style of a lyrical biography, you get like the dual capacity of the people as characters and the characters as people, and trying to find in the reading the historical fact, I guess, behind it. But it's kind of in that it's like, is it more important to see it as what's historical fact, or see elements of like what could be pitfalls and things for people in general as like almost an allegory sort of thing. Not that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. So I don't know. So anyone have particular observations for this section of the book? Because we've got everything from Lota bringing in a new lighting guy from the States to put in, what was it? Mm-hmm. 40-foot lights, whatever it was. In a healthy relationship, the obsessing person still makes an effort to make space and time for their partner, which Lota is not doing for Bishop. Yeah, exactly. And like sometimes you might need a bit of a nudge, like, hey, dude, you need to chill a bit, or like, you need to take a step away from what you're working on. Like, you can come back to it, but like, take a breather for a second. But yeah, it's difficult, but you gotta come up for air. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's one of those that's like, even if it's the most fascinating thing ever, you still gotta take a breather once in a while, you know? Or it will consume everything, and that's not a good thing for anyone involved at all. There's some things that's perhaps a bit less impactful in that capacity, I suppose. Alright. Just making sure after the last round that y'all can still hear me after I've taken myself off mute. The lighting plan and its cost, and the fact that Lacerda admitted to already taking money from finishing hospitals for the Atero is super ridiculous, and just no. Yeah, like, okay. It's one thing to have a pet project, right? It's another thing if your pet project, as fascinating as it is and as culturally enriching as Lota was wanting it to be, to have that actually negatively impacting the community that it's supposed to be for, it just shows a really bad judgment call. You know? Like, the thought's like right here, and it's. It was there, and now it's over here, and I can't see it. Alright. 1 second. Last line. Um. hmm, Yeah, so if you're in a situation, right, where it's already fairly volatile, right? Because, and you get to know that you can hear me. um, if you're in a situation that's already at least somewhat volatile, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't like you or don't like your input because of whatever reason. In this case, she seems to have been a rather abrasive person, at least as relayed by what we have in the text. She seems to have been really dedicated to certain things and pretty abrasive if how she wanted it approached wasn't implemented, I suppose. Um, well, I hope that the cell transmission decides that it wants to behave itself on on your end. I appreciate the continued participation and presence in chat and stuff, and I appreciate it a lot. But yeah, the Chaos Brownies do appear to be on special tonight in in multiple locations. Yeah. Um. Why is it always like I was fine before hitting stream? I was fine, and yet almost every time when it's like a serious topic, especially, I end up just yawning constantly throughout the entire thing. It's, ah. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. All right. Diplomacy was not less. Yeah, like she, uh, she seems to have been gifted in other ways of, like, things, but diplomacy, not so much there. And it's interesting, because for a lot of, like, if you're a designer of something, right, it's, oh man, if you're a designer or something, you've got whatever the base is that you're working with, and then the additions that you put on top of it. So, like, having the initial vision and getting everyone together and, like, the administrative part of it, even like that, okay. But outside of, oh, you seem cool, come take part in my thing. The diplomacy kind of necessary at that point to orchestrate a massive project like what it turned into doesn't seem to have been her forte. But it also seems like she wanted it to be around about here. And then got inspired by other random things and went up here. And as it kind of snowballed over the 5 or so years that the project was being implemented, it got bigger and more out of control to the point that, like, part of the team decided that it didn't want to have, or that the people didn't want to have anything to do with the finished project. And, like, I don't know what the following chapters are like, because I stopped reading it at the end of the foundation chapter. But vanishing and bullying, she was good at. Actual compromise and cooperating with people, not so much. Yeah. Like, she was great cooperating with people as long as it was her idea and no deviation from her idea, which translates to not cooperating at all, really, just dictating things, which isn't the best, you know? Not the greatest of things there. Which, yeah, and, like, I can see as, like, I have a vision and it needs to be a certain way, and the vision of the thing is fascinating and it must be implemented. But also, like, I can understand the obsessive nature of doing stuff, you know, or taking part in something or whatever. Because, you know, I do the same thing and whatever. But when I get that into a project, most of the time there's a natural end to it because it's like a certain number of seasons in a show, or like the end of a series or something, or my hand starts cramping because I just made like 20 bees or whatever. And I have to stop or face physical pain. But like it's interesting because speaking of, yeah, there's a reason that I only did like 2 this morning. Resets her impression, heck of a bulldozer. Yeah, exactly. Also, what does preschooler sexuality come into playground design? Where how's this a serious assertion? I don't freaking know. That one made no goddamn sense. Like, what? Like, all I can figure is that if it's someone being consulted regarding like early childhood development, that might be a thing that's being discussed, but then also that doesn't really, for like the mid 60s, that doesn't really seem like a thing that would be discussed exactly. Of course, I vaguely remember something about that as like subject matter, but not the context or when it would have been. Just that it was somewhat controversial. See a bin of bees. Yes. Which, you know, we'll just take a short intermission for bees, right? So we've got like 2 regular trans bees. This one that I used the velvet pink yarn and the regular other yarn, so it looks a bit different than the other ones, but like, alright, that's cool. And then we've got the non-binary bee and the arrow bee and the ace bee right there. And the pink and white and the pink and black. And the 2 regular ones. Alright. In good news, finally got to take an H2 blocker and runny nose magically cleared up. Huzzah. Awesome. Just look at this one. They're so sparkly. Fabulous. Alright. Fabulous. So, where was I? Sexuality. Okay, let me just do a quick search, right? Hmm. Nope. Alright. Got nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I vaguely remember there being particularly fond of the NBB but yeah, the NBB is pretty. Oh, get back here, you. Is pretty adorable. I'm still trying to get the hang of color changes, you know, but I try to do the invisible change thing, and it's still visible. It's just a little more poofy around the color shifts. So I don't know. We'll see. Some more textured look. I do rather like how the antenna turned out, though. That's cool. Yeah. Anyway. So, where were we? Okay, like, again, I can understand some of the impetus, but still, right? Like, there's an ongoing toxic cycle of Bishop feeling neglected and sad and depressed and going out and finding some kind of alcohol to drink. And then Lota either calling in to the project saying that she can't come in because she's having to deal with Bishop, or trying to foist her off on friends because she's on a bender and Lana can't be bothered to deal with her. And I understand that if you're in essentially the capacity of a caretaker at that point, you need a break sometimes. But the way that it's phrased, and then we've got a passage in here. What's it? Elizabeth, you want me to be indulgent with you. I won't be. To me, indulgence is a lack of esteem, a sign of disdain, regardless of what Bishop or Elizabeth needs in that capacity. To Lotta, being there for her is seen as a counterproductive thing, apparently. After Lotta went out, Bishop reflected. She went to the veranda looking out at the ocean in front of Lem for a long time. Afterward, she sat down and wrote to the University of Washington accepting the position. So, like, all she seems to have really wanted was her partner to actually be around. Which doesn't seem like an unreasonable ask, you know? I think the problem with color changes is that you're crocheting a spiral instead of in circles. Yeah. Okay. Like, for that, because it is definitely a spiral if you look at it. When I've tried to do like the join thing, invisible join, whatever you want to call it, it ends up kind of having a indented spiral, I suppose, around whatever it is that I'm working on. So, I don't know on that one. But I will look more into it and see if I can figure out how to do that. I'm like, so far I'm pretty happy with how the pattern's coming along though, so that's a good. So, yeah. Alright. Oh. And on top of everything else, right, with the whole Lota and Bishop dynamic, again, for most of this, Bishop's having a hard time, and Lota just wants convenience. And there's a part in here where, like, Bishop is going through it, and has gone back to, and again, I will pronounce this wrong, some Baya, and I don't know what you're doing out there, whoever you are, but like, can you not? Maybe? Thanks. But she's gone back to the house in the mountains, hills, wherever it is. And Tobias, the now at this point fairly old cat, is just hanging out all day, every day, and won't leave her alone. And upon relaying that information to Lota, she tells Bishop to kill the cat. Essentially. Multiple times. In several different ways. And each person interacts with animals differently. But I know when I'm having a really bad time of it, Lex, my cat Lex, is all up in my face and being seriously annoying because it forces me to get out of my own head. And I don't know if that's how it was being written, but that's how I was reading it for that interaction. So, again, because it's a biography, not a fictional storyline, there's other factors in play. But if it was being read as a fictional storyline, I would be interpreting that whole interaction as Lota not wanting to give Bishop support and then trying to force Bishop to reject or kill off or whatever any support that she might have, any support or friendships or anything that she might have managed to establish that would be helping her in any capacity. Now that we think about it, we're surprised Bishop got the poetry chair offer with a lot of reading, censoring, or mail. Yeah, that is kind of a surprise. Actually, let me see. Yeah. I'm gonna sign off because missing so much. Looking what she did that. Okay. Have a good sleep, guys. Thanks for the honeycomb. Alright. Have a good sleep. Have a good sleep. Yeah. Alright. I can't quite tell if it's the computer itself or what. Mm.